At first Rachel and Kirsty were startled. Then they both smiled. From year to year. A little fairy was peeping over the rim of one of the shiny blue pots. She waved happily at them. "I'm Kayla the Pottery Fairy," she explained, her eyes twinkling cheerfully. She looked very pretty in her denim shirt dress, cropped grey leggings, and pink shoes, on one of the 7 magical cross fairies. "And I'm here to invite you to a very special event in Fairyland. Would you like to come?" "Yes, please," the girls cried in unison. Even though they visited Fairyland many times, it was still a huge thrill to go back. Kayla tumbled out of the pot and fluttered underneath the table, hidden from view by the folds of the tablecloth. Rachel and Kirsty quickly ducked under the table too. Then with one flick of her wand, Kayla's glittery magic wove them all away to Fairyland. A few magical seconds later, the girls found themselves surrounded by the familiar toadstool houses of Fairyland. They landed in the middle of a huge crowd of fairies clustered around a podium that had been set up on the riverbank. Queen Titania and King Ober- Oberon were on the podium, seated on their golden thrones. Bertram, their frog footman, stood nearby. Then Kirsty noticed a silver banner strung above the podium. Magical Crosswick was painted on it in scarlet letters. Kirsty was amazed. "You are having a Crosswick too, Taylor?" she asked. "We are," Taylor grinned. "It's organized by me and the other magical cross fairies. Why don't you come and meet them? They're just waiting for Queen Titania and King Oberon to open Crosswick." Taylor led the way through the crowd towards the podium. The girls followed, waving and calling hello as they spotted lots of their old friends. In front of the podium, 6 fairies were having a serious discussion. "Girls, these are the other magical cross fairies," Kayla said, pointing her wand at each of them in turn. "Annabelle the drawing fairy, Zadie the sewing fairy, Josie the jewelry fairy, Violet the painting fairy, Libby the writing fairy, and Roxy the baking fairy." "Welcome to Magical Crosswick, girls," the fairy said, all together smiling. "I'm sure you've already guessed that it's our job to make sure that crafts are fun in both human and the fairy worlds," Roxy added. "Other fairies will be trying out lots of different crafts this week just like you," Kayla told Rachel and Kirsty. "At the end of the week, Queen Titania and King Oberon will pick the best, most beautiful things and use them to decorate their palace." At that moment, Bertram hopped to the front of the podium. "Silence for their Royal Majesties, King Oberon and Queen Titania," he proclaimed. The king and queen stepped forward. "Welcome one and all to our magical Crosswick," the queen said. "I see that some special friends have come to join us." She directed a sweet smile at the girls. Suddenly, to her surprise, Rachel spotted a green balloon sailing over the crowd. The podium was heading straight. The balloon was heading for the podium. Before Rachel knew what was happening, it hit the floor next to Queen Titania and exploded, splattering bright green paint all over her sparkling silver gown. Everyone in the crowd gasped, and the queen cried out in distress. "What's happening?" Rachel cried. She and Kirsty ducked as more paint-filled balloons zoomed towards the podium. These balloons burst near the magical cross fairies, covering them in green paint too. Each of the magical cross fairies had been holding their special magic object, but they set them down on the grass as they attempted to clean themselves up. Just then, Kirsty spotted a familiar icy figure striding towards the crowd. "We should have tests," Rachel Trusty groaned. "It's Jack Frost." Grinning with glee, Jack Frost headed for the podium. Rachel noticed that he had a leather bag hanging on his frosty shoulder. Behind him, a group of goblins hurled more paint-filled balloons in every direction. Some of the fairies ran for cover while others tried to catch the balloons before they popped. In the middle of the chaos, Jack Frost jumped onto the podium. At that moment the girls heard a shout from Kayla. "Jack Frost stole all of our magic objects," she cried. "Of course I did," Jack Frost sneered triumphantly. Rachel and Kirsty were shocked to see that he was clutching Kayla's vase, along with 6 other magic objects. "After all, I'm the greatest artist ever, and I'm going to make sure that no one, fairy or human, uses these objects to try to be better than me." Jack Frost shoved the vase and other objects into his bags as the goblins charged onto the podium to join him. Then, with one sweep of his wand, Jack Frost created a bolt of icy blue magic that whisked him and the goblins away to the human world.